Hello to all of you beautiful nerds, and welcome back from traveling the vast nerd universe. I am a little bit tongue-tied today. Sorry about that. So, pretty much, YouTube made me buy things. Don't worry, I bought these with my own Ulta card, and that is the new REM Sweetnerfoundation and the new Too Faced Merry 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 gift set. Yeah, Christmas is back with the makeup sets, and excuse me. Yeah, I just had breakfast not too long ago. The foundation, I found about it through Beauty and Bothered podcast here on YouTube, and also Kelly Gooch, also on YouTube. Follow them if you like two guys talking about makeup, while Kelly Gooch talking about what's the latest and greatest. She did get this in PR. So Beautiful and Bothered talked about this, and they even tested it out in the video version of their podcast, where they said it's better for dry skin because it's more of a moist formula because it has hyaluronic acid. Kelly Gooch, well, she has dry, insensitive skin, kind of like me, so I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take a try at it. So I got my shade in light 8NW. There is another version of this that is also light, medium, neutral, warm undertone. So I'm going to try this out to see if it is my shade. If not, I could just take it back to Ulta. Well, this one was all thanks to Jen Loves Reviews talking about the new releases, and apparently Too Faced released their holiday stuff. Yes, we get sucked into the pretty packaging. Trust me, sometimes that happens to me. But sometimes Too Faced with their holiday stuff, it's not the greatest formula because they just put all their money basically into packaging, and the formula is not the greatest. But I decided, well, not decided, but I heard how she described two of the sets. One of them is the Snow Globe set, which I did get, which is kind of like that coffee hotel, the hotel cafe set that I had years ago. I think I ended up losing all those palettes in the flood, where all the palettes smelled like coffee. They also, one of them came with the blush, one of them came with a highlighter, and the other one came with a bronzer. Or was it two came with the blush, I think. But I forgot. But I did love those, and I also still have the one with the cookie scented eyeshadow. They also did come with a sample size of Better Than Sex mascara. To tell you the truth, those samples are Flake City on my lashes, but the full size is not, which I find it weird. But the thing is, at least this did not come with the sample size, nor the Snow Globe. This one is a face and eye palette, which has 21 shadows and 4 face products. 2 are blushes, and one is a highlight, and the other one is a bronzer. And it smells like Christmas trees. Well, the other set, one of them smells like pecan pie. The other one smells like, you know, those snow cap things, not snow caps, those jelly looking spice drops things. They smell like that. And one other palette smells like, it's hard to say. I forgot. But with that set, I'm going to be doing the looks on Instagram with those to see how well they perform. But this this, I'm doing it here while I'm telling my story about how Jacon got basically ruined by people who sprayed mace. So Jacon was a convention that ended back in 2009 here back in Orlando. And during that year, it was kind of a bit of a crazy mess in a way, and I feel like telling that story because I was kind of inspired by somebody who told the story about Christina Grimley, how Grimmy, it was Grimmy, because nobody was harmed, well, not specifically by how he got harmed, but it was due to how there was the person said something that did make sense. Anybody could get in with anything, and I thought back to Jacon where girls came in with these cans of mace, like hidden on them, and not kidding that you could find a way. But when I was at the Florida Renaissance Fair, they did search bags to make sure you're not bringing in something that should not be there, which was a good thing. So this story is from personal experience, and of course it was, terrible that night with people who think it was cool enough to hurt people with something that's meant for self-defense or even hunting, because there are formulas of mace that are used for hunting purposes, not not really. You get the drift. So let me start off with my brows with my tried and trues. Let's see. So Jacon was one of the bigger conventions that Orlando had alongside MegaCon. Another one was also part of our trifecta of the conventions I went to, was also Anime Festival Orlando. They were good during their times, because of course when I was in high school, it was during my senior year, how everybody in Anime Club basically got excited about going to any of the conventions in town. And back then, I never been to a convention, to tell you the truth. I didn't even know conventions existed until 11th grade when I went to check out a boy band called Voices, because I share a birthday with one of their former members. Well, one of their permanent members, but they're a former boy band, because they hardly get to travel up here to Central Florida. They always do their performances during cheerleading competitions. I was not a cheerleader, even though I wanted to be one, but some picked on me, like the pre-cheerleaders back then did pick on me, and I never became one. Thanks a lot. So I did notice during the time that me and my dad were pretty much killing time, we noticed people in cosplay going to going to MegaCon, and I'm like, Haven't seen that before. And they were in the same area as the cheerleading competition. So we pretty much killed time. I checked out where Anime Sushi was, even though I didn't go into the viewing room since I didn't have a ticket to MegaCon. But I did see some of the promotional stuff. I did show up some of my drawings and everything. And I even have my face painted with the dragon from a talented face painter there. So it pretty much killed a lot of time, and we did manage to catch voices, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get into anime stuff. And that's when I got into the anime club and back over at my old high school. I did go to Anime Sushi when I could during some of the weekends that they have meetings. So I enjoyed my senior year pretty much. And so for my graduation, I decided to go to Jacon for a day. And it used to be held at the UCF campus, the main UCF campus. And I only went for that Sunday. It was the last day because I also had my graduation during the afternoon on Saturday. And I could not miss my high school graduation. So it was my grad gift from my parents at the time. So I went, I enjoyed it, and wanted to go to more pretty much. And even though when I was with my ex, I only went to one day, only for a day, and had the 3-day pass, which kind of felt like a complete waste. But one thing that took place with Jacon is that they did move to other locations to, according to them, it was wanting a bigger space to be able to hold at. But I had heard other things. The reason they had to move was due to things that took place that Saturday. Like, for instance, one reason for moving from UCF was that someone lit one trash cans on fire, and they didn't like that idea. Even though years later they did allow, NitroCon to be held in the student union. More things did take place, but for 2005 and 2006 they were at the Sheraton International, which was a nice hotel for what it was. I did like the layout for a bit, but the only thing that I found annoying was to get to the panels and the signings, you had to go to like a small cabana type building towards the back of the hotel. That was a long walk, but it was kind of worth being able to meet Travis Wellingham that afternoon. But again, it was kind of worth going to that year, but we didn't go during 2006. Kind of I skipped 2 years. 06 and 07. 07 was when I was still starting to date RJ, and he did introduce me to newer things like getting to go to conventions all 3 days. And I was happy about that. He also introduced me to his buddies from Miami, which he went to Jacon that year with. And I was doing my studies at that time, so for summer. So, yep. I had to retake, what was it? Art history that year. But anyways, so 2008, that's when we decided to volunteer for that year, and we also volunteered for 2009. 2008 was when they moved over to a hotel in like the Kissimmee area, like close to Celebration, and hold on. And what was it? And that was also where we got to meet some lifelong friends, same with a few other conventions later on. That's one good thing about conventions in general. You tend to meet longtime friends. And I'm trying to find a nice little eyeshadow brush. So things have changed since, times do change. So 2008 was great. It, like, not much happened. Like, volunteering was smooth. Things have gone well. The only issue that really happened was someone tossed a balloon into one of the trees that had Christmas-like lights in them and caused them to break. So they cleared out the ballroom and told everybody to come back for the rave. And we're like, okay, let's hang around for a bit. So we hung out with some people that we met up with. Well, had a great time. Also didn't realize that some of the food in Kissimmee did not agree with RJ that year. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry, I'm trying to count. 11, 12. Yeah, since this is like a pyramid. So I'm starting off with Winter Wonderland, which is a nice, pretty teal. It called out to me when I was looking at this palette's description, which made me happy. It was a full shade description. Yay! But as I was saying, I even heard how some people, like this one group, went to a Waffle House around there and they ordered the same things, and half of the group ended up sick. It's like, wait, what? And well, it's like, okay, now we know to just be careful around there. Even though the year after we mostly stuck with like A and W. But anyways, things went smooth and we had a lot of fun. Well, 2009, they announced that it was going to be the final year for Jacon. And we still decided to volunteer and be like, hey, it's the final year. Why not be there for the last hurrah? And we decided to still volunteer. I don't know what happened that year, but it felt like, yeah, it was the final year, but it was like, let's mess with the volunteers, shall we? Not only from the attendees' point of view, but also the volunteers' point of view. Because, as you know, being a volunteer, you not only keep the convention running, but also you make sure that your attendees stay safe and make sure that they don't go into areas that they're not supposed to go into. So please, people, listen to the volunteers when they tell you not to do something. I mean, heck, I even listen to the ones at the NFB convention if they tell me to move out of the way, which I had. So, yeah. That year was completely a bit messed up for being a volunteer. Because with me, yes, I did my job as a volunteer, you know, making sure people were safe. I mean, that same year, I also volunteered for MegaCon. RJ volunteered for AFO 2010. We both volunteered for Jacon 2009, and I also volunteered for MegaCon 2009 as well. And so with 2009, it, like I said, it kind of felt like people are just don't want to listen to what the volunteers had to say. Let's do whatever we want. And my first sign came during that Friday afternoon. Another thing too, during Jacon 2009, it felt like Mother Nature decided to start bringing major weather to the Kissimmee, well, Orlando area, so to speak, because Orlando has many parts to it, and Kissimmee was pretty much a huge area for major weather. I mean, back in the 90s, they had really bad tornadoes, for example. So, Friday, when we picked up our buddy Paul, because he was going to stay at the hotel during the weekend with some friends, we knew him from the year before, because he always does an amazing Zabuza cosplay, because he had the figure. And RJO is joined in as Kakashi. And we also met a guy who did an amazing Jiraiya costume like the year before. And we helped out with Paul getting him to the hotel, get some things printed out, but he was cosplaying as Shikamaru. He was starting to cosplay as Shikamaru that year. And he well, like I said, there was like major storms about to hit, and we got there as it was pouring. And man, we never thought it would be one huge deluge until got to the convention. So at least we got to volunteer inside. The weather did let up later on though. And my first shift was at the panel room because what the hotel was, there was one part where you had the vendor's room and registration, then you walk across to the next part of the hotel part with all the panels and main events. I was in the part with the panels, so I had to keep security, do badge check to make sure nobody's going in without a badge. So my first sign of this, I'm going in with lit up, and my creases Tannenbaum, which is another, like a lighter teal, was when this guy came up and noticed my badge when he was having me take a look. And I think he was also asking a question. This was so long ago. He was like, "Oh, you're a volunteer? My badge is better because it's purple." I'm like, "What? How do you think your badge is better because I am a volunteer?" That makes no sense in my mind. So I'm like, "Okay, go on in, since you show me your badge." So he went in. I'm like, "Okay." And it was pretty much the panel where it was George Lowe and Richard Horvitz. Very nice guy, by the way. Ranger Stop, if you're watching this video, please have Richard Horvitz. He was the original voice of Alpha 5 back in the day of Power Rangers, and he was also in this year's anniversary. If you guys ever watched Hell of a Boss, he's also Moxie. But anyways, also a nice guy in person, by the way. So anyways, back to the story. So my shift ended right after that panel, because that year I had pretty short volunteer shifts somehow. I understand if it's trying to make things flow better, but they were saying, "Yeah, we gotta start getting ready for the evening panels, so you're done." So I'm like, "Okay." So decided to go to the vendor's hall after telling the main volunteer guy, "Hey, they just ended my shift at the panel rooms." He's like, "Okay, just have fun." So this was also the year that we met our buddy Toby, which he lives with us, and we've been friends ever since then. He just moved down from Delaware to live with his dad in Orlando for a few years, which things after meeting us, his life did change, especially now for the better. So, anyways, so I met him at the Florida Oriental Trading booth, which it was a shop here in Orlando that sold a lot of things, including a lot of rare stuff. And one of the things that they were holding for me was a black Mocha bag from XXX Holic that we found at that me and RJ found at the shop itself. They did sell out, but we're bringing the new stock in for Jacon, and I was able to pick it up while at the convention, since Toby did help me out by talking with the guy, since he was at the convention selling some of the stuff from the shop. So then me and Toby started talking. The reason why we referred to him as Toby is because he cosplayed as the character from Naruto. Many months later. Because it was easy to know, since we know so many people with the name Mike and with the name Chris. So we had to pretty much tell who's who. I mean, the Chris that me and RJ know from Miami, we refer to him as Itachi, since he cosplayed as Itachi before I had. But anyways, back to story. So we started talking and started hanging out, and oh man, I'm worried about my, excuse me, I need to do something real quick. Oh crap, nope, no. Better not fall apart. Phew. Was making sure that my chameleon is on charge, by the way. So, as I was saying, so RJ joined up with us, and we started hanging out for the night, and got to know Toby a bit. He had to catch the bus back to where he lived, and so Friday kind of was a bit smooth. Okay, this eyelash, where is, ow, son of a, ow, oh, ow, not going to use one, and plus it's already falling apart with some of the parts. Tried and true. So Friday was pretty smooth. Next day, the weather did let up for a few hours. It did rain sporadically, even when we got back to get ready for the masquerade and rave, since pretty much those are the big events that a lot of people tend to look forward to, especially with it being the last year. Apparently, that's when things got worse for us as volunteers, and how we kind of noticed some things did take place that we were not expecting. So we go in for our volunteer shifts. RJ was at the gaming room. Well, I was nearby making sure that people went through a no entry area. Even though there was no sign, but they told me, make sure nobody comes through this part of the hallway. It was like upstairs in like an alcove area. Even though a lot of people were hanging around, because this convention, even when Florida Anime Experience even took place, there was a lot of downtime. And this is the only convention that I noticed that has a lot of downtime. Because most conventions, like AFO for example, they have a lot of panels going on at the same time, but you could pick and choose from which ones that you want to go to the most. At Jacon, it was like major downtime in between. Yes, I like to relax, but there are times when I want to at least go to panels that are still going on, or viewing rooms. I noticed one thing too at some of these conventions, there are not a lot of viewing rooms anymore. Because I remembered when I went to AFL the first time, they had awesome viewing rooms. Like one of them was a like Toonami / Adult Swim room, and got to hang out in there watching some Megas XLR. But there's not many viewing rooms anymore. I think the last convention that I know that had a pretty good viewing room was Omni Expo, when we found out about the anime Erased for and we also watched the Lupin the Third movie that way too. In English, by the way. But anyways, so I'm doing my shit, making sure that people were not going into the no entry zone. I think some of them also heard that it was a no entry zone, but some of them hung around that area until a couple came up. One thing about me, which I was taught back when I was living with the parents, is that you can't raise your voice to anybody, even if you're very soft-spoken. There are times when I had to raise my voice to be heard. Because you could hardly hear me, and I tend to mumble. And I was trying to tell them very nicely that this is a no entry area. And they looked at me. And they were like, oh, you're very pretty. What were you saying? You should enunciate. And the guy kept on repeating the word enunciate. And around this time, I was not able to be that defensive. I was pretty shy. I know it's kind of weird hearing me, shy, being the most social butterfly. Make sure. I don't think this is the marshmallow face primer, because it usually smells sweet. Yeah, it's more foundation. Yeah, I think this is the Revlon. Yeah. But anyways, so that's why I raise my voice and say, this is a no entry area. Please go back the way you came. And they were like, oh, you didn't have to raise your voice and be mean about it. And they just walked away. Yep, this is the marshmallow primer. And I was like, okay. And then this one group decided to sit next to me and just played card games. Like I said, downtime. But I would have to say major props to the guy who had the group, though, because he helped me out with a bigger group. Ah, man, where are all these people coming from? And I'm not sure if they were trying to find a different way of getting out or something, but they were trying to come through the door that was at the end of that hallway. And I pretty much say, excuse me, this is a no entry area. And people were like, but there's no sign saying it. And I started to yell out, it's not an entry way, it's a no entry area. Please turn back around and go the other way. I even turned somebody around, I think. And they started getting defensive and started to get mad until the guy that was in the gaming group decided to stand up and say, hey, she's doing her job. Follow what she has to say. Crap, I lost. No, wait. So they all left grumbling, and that's when I pretty much broke down at that point. And the guy was like, are you okay? And I was pretty much sniffling and crying at that moment. And I decided to also call up RJ at that moment. This was when I still had my Razr phone. And he was pretty much right around the corner, and I tried explaining what was going on, but I couldn't because I was crying. And he came over to comfort me. And one of the other volunteers came from the gaming room and asked what was going on. And he's like, I'm not sure, something may have happened. And I think the guy in the gaming group, if I remember correctly, explained that some of the people were getting on her case, getting on my case for it being a no entryway, and gave her major attitude. So the volunteer was like, okay, just go down, let's try to get someone else to take over. So they did, told me to go down, explain what happened to the main volunteer guy, and I did. So ended my volunteer work for that at that moment. And I was pretty much I was like bummed but at the same time, there it is. But at the same time, I felt like, okay, I am looking forward to the, don't let this ruin the rest of my night. Let me enjoy the rest of what I have with the masquerade and rave. Here's the new REM Foundation. Ew, it's a little bit fancy. Maybe for safety reasons, I should put it on my paint palette. Don't think it's that liquidy. It's a little bit thicker than the Luminous Skincare. I hope this is in my shade. If you guys want to comment and say how good it looks, well, hoping it looks okay. I know I'm going to be asking on Facebook, on Instagram about it too. So hoping it matches. So here I go. So me and RJ decided to go back to his place for a moment and for a bit before we had to go back to the convention for the night events. Have some dinner, relax a bit for a bit after everything that took place. Heck, I even spent some time in the vendor's room buying some items. Got something signed by Richard Horvitz. Even got something from George Lowe. Because who knows when's going to be the next time that we would see these people. So that night we got ready. I was wearing my Fruits Basket high school uniform top, because it would be something that Dark would wear, you know, if he had more of a formal version of his thieving outfit. And also I was using my Mocha bag that I bought during that weekend. So I packed all the glow sticks that I was taking. Okay, this is a pretty light foundation. So we got back to the convention, got our badges checked and everything. So we tried to get into the masquerade. Unfortunately, we were not allowed in because one, I was wearing my sneakers. And well, the thing was, there was no rules posted about footwear. I mean, so they wouldn't let me in. They tried to ask me if I have any other shoes. Unfortunately, I did not. And plus, they were my good pair of Vans, which had the, oh, what the heck am I doing? Which had the graveyard print, which I did like. And when you look at Vans, they kind of could pass as loafers in a way when you look at them from the front. But still, they would not let me in. And trust me, next day when I saw this person again, she didn't know, according to her, did not know I was a volunteer until she saw my volunteer badge in the vendor room. Like, it's bright orange, people. All volunteers have the same bright orange sticker. And I'm the blind one. Hey. But RJ, on the other hand, had another problem with his, and it was with what he was wearing. They would not let him in because, according to them, what he was wearing was not formal enough. Here's the thing, what he was wearing. He even worn it to the winter formal back in 2007 that Jacon was also doing. And also to this masquerade the year before. And it was the funeral garb, the funeral outfit that Kakashi was wearing in Naruto for the third Hokage's funeral. If you've ever seen Naruto during those early seasons after Konoha's invasion, all thanks to Orochimaru, they wore funeral garb that was almost like what they usually wear as regular Jonin, which are the instructors. And he was pretty much wearing his karate / samurai looking top, which looked very nice and very formal, but they said no to it. And it's like, what the heck? He was mad that he couldn't get in because of this bit where, and also he was mad that I couldn't get in despite my footwear. And this is like the last year too, and we were wanting to go into the masquerade big time to at least hang out with people that we knew from the year before, have some laughs, enjoy some of the music, but they would not let us in. So we found Toby. He was still there, and we got to hang around until the rave started. This is where also more screwed up things happened as well. I know. Wait, there's more? There's more. So we decided to try to have our luck and try to get into the rave. Apparently now they have extra rules, which we were not expecting. So apparently it could not go in with backpacks. So unfortunately I couldn't get in because of my little Mocha backpack. And they're like, do you have anybody with you? Or are you staying with anybody? We're like, no. And then they could not let RJ in because of his face mask. His Kakashi face mask, which apparently someone in a muumuu and a ninja mask as well was going around fondling some girls during the masquerade. That's what we kind of heard from some of the attendees around the area. So I'm going to try out the bronzer in this palette. Man, that smells so good. So he couldn't get in because he was wearing a ninja mask. And we were bummed that we couldn't go in. So we just hung around the hallway with a father and daughter duo, which they were hoping to go into the rave as well. But of course they also had backpacks and they couldn't go in. So we were pissed at this point. So we decided to hang around until like around 2 a.m. like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. That's when I smelled something in the air. And I asked around, do you guys smell that? It smells a little bit off. And that's when we noticed some people were coming out of the rave room coughing. Like, and I was covering my own nose because I was smelling it as a lot more. And apparently from a video that I saw that filmed all 3 days, some girls, a pair of girls were spraying mace in the air. Toby apparently saw one of them doing it in the hallway directly outside of one of the rave doors, like one of the exits. And well, but the person who did the video said they were coughing a bit, like they smelled it, and when they got out of the rave, they were told to go to the bathroom and rinse their mouth out. I didn't know about that trick because by the next morning, my stomach was hurting from it. And RJ, his eye that was not covered, because as you know, Kakashi's left eye is always covered. The right eye was not. His eye was completely red from it. And we didn't know what had happened until I saw those videos and said, yeah, there was a mace spraying during the rave. And we were surprised that it happened. And Toby didn't go for the final day of the convention because he also got sick from the mace spraying. So, because he told me what had happened to him when we met back up during AFO that year. And I felt terrible with my stomach. And even though I was able to go through the rest of the evening, even bought a lot more stuff, even we even went into the flea market thing. Afterwards, it was like a item swap almost, and you can also buy items as well. One thing I was able to find, and we still have this day to this day, which I was happy, was my Dean Angel wall scroll, because Dean and Angel merchandise is very rare and pretty much hard to find here in the States. I mean, it goes the same way with Galaxy Angel here. I'm going to use the highlighter, which is called Let Spirit with Spirits Being Bright, I think. I was gonna put on the Purely's cream blushes, but all thanks to this coming from Ulta yesterday, which I was not expecting to arrive so soon, I was like, screw it, I'm gonna use it. So, yep. So I was able to get that. One thing we did get what was it? In the dealer's room that was a big plus was this humongous wall scroll of Kaze Kage Gara, which we put behind my door because it was big enough for that wall. We still have. The good thing is our wall scrolls were not affected by the floodwaters. So we were able to have those saved. But yeah, I did watch that entire video series, and I did read the comments how people had effects from the mace. Like someone had a major red face moment because of the mace actually hitting them in the face, and someone had a weird reaction on one of their arms. I'm like, whoa. And we were wondering, why would someone bring something like that to a convention? One of our buddies from Anime Club was like, because it was the final year, Jacon announced it was going to be the final year of its convention. But we were not expecting something like that to happen. But all thanks to what took place, AFO, one of our other friends, really good friend, was like telling us how she had her bag searched before the rave at AFL that year. And we were thinking, yeah, and we told her, yeah, it was due to mace being sprayed at Jacon. And it was a terrible thing. I mean, even some of our buddies from Kissimmee even told us, yeah, after the girls returned, that's a bad thing to, well, even though they got justice for what had happened, some of the attendees basically dogpiled on them for ending the rave with spraying everyone with mace, because the place had to be evacuated and put in lockdown afterwards, from what we heard, because it was going into the vents. Yeah. So, like I said, they ended up searching bags during AFL. And I did hear from somebody we used to know, but even though he pretty much pulled things out of his butt, that they almost did at MizuCon as well. But I guess he's just trying to say that to relate to the story. But who knows? But all I have to say, if you're at a convention, know that mace is not a toy, people. It's meant for self-defense and hunting. So, well, yeah, because there are different maces for different animals. So, yeah, like I said, it's not a toy. I don't know what happened with those girls. I think they went off somewhere where they can't harm anybody. I'm hoping they don't harm any other conventions in between. So apparently that hotel, the Ramada, from what we learned from the guy that cosplayed as Jiraiya, he told us that, yeah, the hotel got condemned and closed down, which was kind of sad for a bit. But if your place is condemned, it's pretty much gone. So Jacon ended up being turned into Florida Anime Experience. I only went for one day because that they had Miley Flanagan as a guest. And like I said, from what I've noticed, they had so much downtime with convention, with the panels and everything. And so, yeah. I could do a story time on my experience at Florida Anime Experience that entire day. But if you guys want to hear it, just comment down below. Also comment down below and see if my foundation does match. I'm not sure if it does. I know I'm going to be asking on Instagram if it does match me a lot, because this was like one of the shades that could probably match me pretty well. If not, I did save the receipt just in case if it does, but it went on pretty well for what it is. And also thanks to Beautiful and Bothered and Kelly Gooch, sorry, to turn me onto this foundation. It's pretty good for application. I mean, who knows how well it'll stay on. I mean, like I said, my skin is dry and sensitive, so so far so good. It looks nice. With the new Too Faced eyeshadow / face palette, I found it pretty easy to apply. Heck, even though I had a bit of a owl with my lash curler. Ow. But it did stay on pretty well. I'm not sure about the cheek parts of it, but it's not bad of a palette. I mean, for 50-something dollars, it's definitely a nice gift for what you get. You get like 21 eyeshadow shades, and you get 2 blushes, a bronzer, and a highlighter, which is pretty much a good gift to give someone who's just starting to get into eyeshadow, I guess. But for a makeup collector, I would say it's not too bad for what you're getting. I mean, I did fall for the cute packaging, of course. But hey, it's been a while since I got anything from Too Faced. I just did the 21 Days of Beauty to pick up their eyeshadow palette for today. So, yep. Can't wait to get that in the mail. Probably it'll show up maybe Tuesday, because it said it was coming by Thursday, because I've been noticing how Ulta has been pretty quick with their deliveries. Like I said, I was not expecting these sets to come in the mail. And like I said, with Instagram, I'm going to be doing the snow globe looks with that. So if you're not following me there, it's Mari, M-A-R-I, Blue Cat over on Instagram. So just head on over there. So that's about it for this one. It was great to tell the story, because I also put the story in another book that I did write called The Blind Perspective, Convention Stories from the Dark. It's not my greatest first release of a book ever. It didn't get much of a good review, but it was the book before I started doing Backwards Fairy Tale for real and started actually releasing it. I'm still working on A Lovely Sleep, but classes have been getting in the way. So to me, doing Instagram right now is a little bit easier and more quick than just putting up the camera setup. So who knows when I'm going to be doing another makeup story time or makeup review. So until next time, stay beautiful while traveling the vast nerd universe.